Hey up everyone, hope we're all doing well. I am so sick and tired of the UFC no longer giving a fuck about promoting their own product. What makes this worse is that they actually used to put effort into promoting their own product, but nowadays there is none of that. And that makes it so much worse because we know that the UFC are actually capable, but they just decided, nah, fuck this, we're gonna be lazy, you know, fuck doing all of that when we can just have the name the UFC be enough for us. It's boring and it's stale. I mean, for example, this Saturday, tomorrow night, we have Gilbert Burns taking on Michael Morales, and it hasn't been promoted whatsoever. I haven't seen any posts about this fucking event other than like creators, really. You've got Gilbert Burns, a UFC veteran, a former title contender, been in some wars, quite a big name, not massive, but still quite a relatively known name, especially in the MMA scene, taking on an undefeated prospect in his mid-20s and Michael Morales. You could easily promote that fight, but they just decided, nah, fuck that, fuck doing all that, we'll let the creators do it instead. And you know what, I want to show a few things that the UFC used to do, what made the UFC a lot more fun when it comes to promo wise, and just getting you more excited for a UFC event. But just before we get into it, guys, if you do enjoy UFC content and you want to keep up to date with UFC news, make sure to drop a sub. I'm trying to hit 1k and I believe we can get there this year. But anyways, let's get straight into it. Now, to start things off, a thing that I really miss, the UFC Thrill and Agony series. So what would this would be, an event would take place, and after the event takes place, you get a sneak peek with behind the scenes with the winner, how the winner was reacting after obviously winning, and the loser, how they were reacting after they lost. It was just a cool thing to see how these fighters would react to winning and losing, and seeing other fighters' reactions as well. I'm pretty sure they would show fighters' reactions. The last one we got was UFC 280, which was headlined by Islam Makhachev and Charles Oliveira, so quite 2 years ago, and that's the last we saw of it. We got no information to why he stopped or anything like that, but they just stopped doing these things. I mean, they were they weren't exactly consistent with numbers, or quite some inconsistent ones, doing 180, you know, 100 odd K, which isn't crazy. But then you got some big ones like the Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman one. Understandably, people wanted to see how Kamaru Usman was after getting knocked out for the very first time, and how Leon was acting after getting the biggest win of his career. That's got almost 660k views. You got a lot of them had loads and loads of views, and even if they weren't, it was just always a cool thing to see. I don't know what the fuck that one is, but regardless, this is just one of the few things I miss. I missed the Thrill and Agony series. I know there's a lot of other people who missed it as well. It was just a good way to see the genuine side of a fighter, you know what I mean? After they've worked hard, they've had a training camp, and then the outcome of the fight happens, and we see how they handle the outcome of the fight, the result of the fight, and how they go about it. It was just another good look to see how a fighter was when it didn't come to a whole character, and once the fight was finally done. But for whatever reason, the UFC were like, yeah, fuck that, we haven't got time for any more of that. The next thing we have is these sort of random Q&A days where it would last, like here is 45 minutes. You got John Jones, Dustin Poirier, Conor McGregor, and DC. And I'm telling you right now, guys, if you've never watched this, please go and watch it. It's so fucking funny. It was actually really good. I think this was what, late 2014, if I believe correctly, September 2014. DC and Jones were meant to fight, and then someone pulled out, and then they rebooked it for the January 2015. But we just had some good trash talk. You had McGregor hurling insults at Dustin Poirier. You had DC and Jones beefing each other, but at the same time, they were kind of being quite sound with each other as well. This was a good time period. It was just very fun to be around at this point in time. You got right here on my right, and if yes, UFC 200 counterpunch Cormier versus Jones, where they had them face to face. I should have included this in one of the thingies, but just little extra ways to promote the fight. Why wouldn't you do that? It gave some nice one-liners, added a bit more character, added a bit more heat to their feuds. Why would you stop this? This was some good promotion for 45 minutes. Do that 45 minutes? Fuck all. I don't know why we don't do that anymore, but we move on. For these big events, now I know you're not going to do this for every single event, don't get me wrong, but for these big events, why don't we do a world tour anymore? I don't know if it was just for this one, because this is when I was getting into UFC massively, maybe just before McGregor really thingied, like mid 2014 is when I started to watch loads more events. But I don't know if this was the only time we did this, but why did we stop? this is what made McGregor even bigger. I remember on Facebook, I used to share this sort of shit on my Facebook, and I would have people like from my school who would never talk about MMA, knew fuck all about MMA, like, oh, he's actually quite funny and stuff like that, thinking he was a pisser. Why did we stop this? This was such great promotion and a core point in promoting Conor McGregor and making him the star that he was when he takes the bout off of Jose Aldo, when he went to Brazil and to Dublin, and you know, all that fucking heat what was on Jose Aldo, it was absolutely fucking crazy. Conor McGregor in Brazil getting loads of heat and having loads of support in Dublin. It was some crazy stuff right there. Dana White lapping it up with the fucking island top as well. Why did we stop this? Could you have imagined like a Tom Aspinall and John Jones world tour, or an Ilya Topuria and Islam Makhachev world tour? It would have been fucking massive. You would have built stars even more as well. Honestly, I reckon you could have even done it with Marab and Sean O'Malley just before we did the Sphere card, because the Sphere card itself was a unique thing, a fun thing from the UFC, what we hadn't really seen from them in about 6 years. They did something unique and fun. I was like, finally, why didn't we do more? Why didn't we do a world tour back in it as well? That would have been fucking mental. But no, we don't get things like this anymore. And it's just how you'd watch back on these things. You could watch these on end and just be entertained. It was that fucking fun, but we don't get these anymore, and it's sickening to me because I miss this sort of shit. We move on. Back when we had McGregor, he was meant to be fighting Rafael dos Anjos. He was meant to be fighting Rafael dos Anjos at UFC 196. RDA had to pull out because his FUD was a balloon. Regardless, he had to pull out. And in steps Nate Diaz on was this like a couple weeks notice. And as soon as they made that announcement, within like maybe a few hours or a day, I can't exactly remember because it's almost 10 years ago, which is 9 years ago. They were doing a press conference for this shit, and even this 26 minutes long, just full of fucking bangers. Again, I understand not everyone is like Conor McGregor and is really witty and, you know, about it, but also to defend that point, how are we meant to find out if a lot of these fighters are like as witty as McGregor if they don't get these press conferences to shine? I wonder how many press conferences McGregor was able to experience. He had loads. That's how he made a massive name for himself, by being this brash, outgoing guy. Chael Sonnen the same. But we don't get these fucking presses as much. The only thing we get now is a press conference, like maybe a few months in advance to promote it, where every fighter's on the card, and maybe like a few days before the pay-per-view as well. And that's all we get. And even then, the like very handful of fighters that get to go. It's a fucking joke, and I don't understand why, because it just holds the product back, to my opinion. Now the next one, another one that I miss dearly. When they would do these big press conferences like this, look over here, you got Joanna, Ronda Rousey, Matt Brown, Frankie Edgar, RDA, is that Josh Barnett? I don't know. Dustin Poirier. I think, was it Vitor Belfort might have been behind Dana here. Connor, Cowboy, Dan Henderson, Joe Duffy, if anyone remembers that, what a fucking throwback. Chad Mendes, Holly Holm, and you had some more people to the side as well. You had these big press conferences. This is the go big one, where they would have a lot of events coming up in the future, like summertime, and they would get all of these fighters from these events, the key marquee fights, and stick him on one press conference. And everyone, like in this one, McGregor was going after fucking everyone. The only one who was really sound with him was like Edgar, I think. You had Cowboy going for him. He just came off a win against Chad Mendes, and they were going at it a bit. I think him and Poirier went a bit at it. I think he mentioned something about Joe Duffy. And we had one, I think, the year before, where you had Weidman, Jones, Silva. You had all these McGregor, Rousey. You had all these big names on these massive press conferences, and you got so many things to look forward to. Another thing I should have put as a tab as well is the one where Michael Chiesa and Kevin Lee. That's a brilliant example. When Michael Chiesa, Kevin Lee, they did a press conference. They were going into a fight, a random fight night card, just like we get nowadays, a random fight night card. We had Michael Chiesa going up against Kevin Lee. Whatever, no one really gave that much of a shit. But then what happened at the press conference? Michael Chiesa and Kevin Lee almost get into we did get in a scrap. They ended up throwing punches at one another. And what did that do? That elevated the fight to give people a thing to care about going into their fight night card. This is why have we stopped this? It makes no fucking sense to me. Now we're going to move on from press conferences and go to the face-to-face, because I don't understand why the UFC have stopped doing this as well. The good old face-to-face where again, the face-to-face, self-explanatory. But the last time I believe we did this was this one. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is the one that I really remember. 630k views for an older Dominic Cruz, who isn't a champion, and Chito Vera, who was coming through the ranks a bit more. 630k views, 6 minutes long, barely fucking anything. I know it'll be edited down, but I doubt it had taken too long. Just both of them giving each other shit in person. And the best thing about this was, it was just like they both really meant it, but yeah, you could tell they have a good amount of respect for one another. Why have we stopped doing this shit? Just a good extra way to promote things. You know, oh, there's not much going on throughout the week. Let's just give them, I don't know, 7 minutes of them just, you know, being honest with each other. And maybe sometimes we'll get some fucking physical interaction or some good one-liners what maybe go viral. I thought in today's day and age, you want viral moments. Wouldn't these create viral moments from time to time? You see it in boxing a lot, where you have Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney, where fucking Ryan Garcia's acting all thingy. Devin Haney's like, I don't know what's going on with that guy. You know what I mean? In the boxing, I was gonna mention something else, but I can't show the trailers because of UFC copyright. The trailers. Boxing's trailers, oh my god, insane. The Bivol, the Better Biev one, the recent one with the free fucking fight card in Times Square, what we just had the other week. It was a shitty card, don't get me wrong, but still, the trailer and promotion was absolutely insane. We don't get that with the UFC. Why? We used to get this sort of shit. Do you remember Aldo and McGregor 189? Where they're walking down the Vegas Strip and they got all the fans behind them. That was fucking incredible. That was incredible, and we've never topped it. I think you had UFC, was it 200 as well? You had one with DC and Jones. I can't remember if it was a rematch or not. That was an incredible trailer. We don't get it anymore. It's so infuriating because it's just like, you know, they could be doing so much better. It's just like, nah, fuck that. We move on. Another face-off. Now, this was TNT Sports, but imagine the UFC had to sign off on it. And even still, this one, 1.3 million views between Darren Till and Jorge Masvidal. Masvidal, who was coming off like, what, a 2-year layoff or a year layoff? And was, you know, hadn't been around for a while, coming up against Darren Till. And this was a 25-minute one with Dan Hardy in it as well. Why don't we get this anymore? This is what I missed, the face-offs. I don't want to blabber on like I just did. But look, when it paid off, when, I don't know if you guys remember this, but UFC 182, the first time Jones and DC were about to meet, they went off air, but still had the cameras rolling, and we got it where Jones was like, hey, pussy, you still there? And DC was like, man, I'll spit in your fucking face. And Jones was like, yeah, I'd fucking kill you if you did that. You know I'll kill you, right? And then it just made for like a minute and a half, those two off air, genuine fucking hatred for one another, just giving each other fucking verbal. And this went viral. I mean, this has got 820k. Just some random guy who's posted it as well. Sorry, J-Bro Games, I don't mean to do you like that, but you know what I mean? This isn't like ESPN posted it. It was like ESPN numbers, you know what I mean? Nah. Why don't we get this? I miss it so much, man. You know what? I'm not even done because I just remember posters as well. I feel like the UFC posters nowadays, they have some bangers here and there, don't get me wrong, but a lot of them are just quite same old copy and paste and then change up the background a lot. Look at the posters from like, what, 2016, 2017. She's back. Ronda Rousey, Nunes, nice, unreal. Holloway Pettis, that was a bit of a stinker, don't get me wrong, just very generic. That one, okay as well, nothing crazy. That one is fucking gorgeous, and no one would tell me anything else. That is a gorgeous one. Bisbee in Great Britain, Henderson, proud American, you know, battling America versus the UK. Unreal fucking poster that is right there. That is a gorgeous poster. That's one of my favorites actually. That's a gorgeous poster. An okay one again, nothing crazy, but still a bit unique. You know what I mean? Like, all my days, just fucking unique ideas, not same old. Another decent one right there. UFC 200, fucking fantastic. UFC 300 was just what? Was it just 300? UFC 300 on gold? Yeah, well, guys, that's fucking, well in, lads. That's fucking creative. UFC 200, look at that compared to UFC 300. Fuck me. Like, just so much better. So much better. That's like the Mexican piss filter on that one. But still, in general, just so much better than what we get nowadays. Don't get me wrong. Like, look, just don't get me wrong. There was some stinkers here and there. And Nowadays, we do also think you get some good ones, but I feel like the great ones we get nowadays are nowhere near the greats what we used to get back then. It's just all these little things what play a part. I do understand maybe some of you may just view this as a small thing, but I don't know, I just miss those days so much. I get so nostalgic about those days when they should still be a part of the product today. We should still get these extra bits of promotion that we used to get, but now we no longer get them, and the UFC barely promote their own fucking events anyway. It's so fucking frustrating. I miss the old days. I feel like an unk, but regardless, I do miss how the UFC used to promote their product. But let me know in the comments, guys, what do you think the UFC should do? Do you think they should bring back some things? Could you think of any new ideas that the UFC could incorporate, add into their game in order to promote their events? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.